That's my baby.
I'm Dana Denha.
And I am Melissa Bondi, and this is Adventures in Parenthood, where we take a ride on the roller coaster that we call parenting.
Going to camp as a kid is a rite of passage, whether it be sleepaway or day camp. It's sure to inspire memories to last a lifetime. Melissa, has Bryn done any camps or anything yet? Or are you thinking about putting her in camp at all?
We started day camps last summer, and we're going to try again this summer because we felt it was successful and fun and enjoyable. And she cried in the beginning when she had to leave and we pick her up. So I knew that she was crying because she didn't want to leave. So we knew we had, it was a success. So this summer we're trying a few different ones because, so many camps out there is different between gymnastics camps we're going to try, and then the YMCA camps, and then you have your rec and ed camps. So many different types for kids nowadays with science. And so yeah, we're going to try it again this summer. And she's really looking forward to it. So what about you?
No, we haven't really done any camps yet. And honestly, when I was growing up, I think I did like one camp, and it was in elementary schools, like in 6th grade. It was a day camp where you went like 3 days or whatever. It was like a field trip, but you did like all of the camp stuff. You did crafts and archery. But I remember it and I thought it was so much fun. But I think that's more of a sleepaway camp thing when you do that stuff. Like your camps you're talking about are like specific day camps for one activity, which is also great because I'm sure that helps Bryn sort of figure out what her interests are too.
She had asked me specifically, are we going back to the gymnastics camps? And that's literally 6 days, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day of gymnastics and crafts. They do that. They break up the day. However, that's kind of what she's, leaning toward as far as a hobby and her niche and what she enjoys at this age. So we're just going to take advantage of that for now. But regular
curiosity, is she like, can you see progress with the gymnastics? I'm curious because Kiki is very interested in like that sort of aerial stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially after a week of it every day, the repetition, she comes home and does it and you're like, oh my gosh, you did that today. And then parents can go watch at a certain time and you can go, view and see what they're doing in the gym. And I watched her climb a rope. That was pretty high.
Well, that's pretty impressive. But climbing a rope is not easy.
No, and these kids are doing it at 5 and 6. I'm like, holy moly!
I don't think I've ever been able to climb a rope.
See it. I don't know, in a long time since I tried that.
Being a burn victim can leave lasting scars, albeit physical or mental. Children that have experienced the pain of being burned have a long road to travel to feel that sense of normalcy. But there is a place for these kids to let their free spirit fly at a camp dedicated just to them. Joining me is Mike Longencker, Executive Camp Director at Great Lakes Burn Camp. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Let's just start with what is the Great Lakes Burn Camp and how did this come about?
Well, we are a camp for children that are burn survivors. They've all been burn injured by some way, by fire, hot water, electrical, campfires. So many different ways kids can get burned, and they average about 200 kids a year getting burned. So there's a lot of kids out there. But we our mission is to provide a unique experience that promotes healing and self-esteem for burn injured children. And something that you commented earlier about burn victims. We don't call them burn victims. They're a victim at the time of the accident, but now they're survivors, and they're always going
clearing that up. Yeah,
yeah. It puts a much more positive spin on it. It's like a cancer. Somebody said cancer, they're a survivor, and our kids are survivors, even though they're continuously going through surgeries as they grow, and even as adults, due to their injuries. And we've had kids with over 200 surgeries. And they're still in their teens. So. But we provide a unique experience for them. It promotes healing and self-esteem, and it's in a safe atmosphere. And we're a camp. We do a summer and a winter camp, and it's volunteer staff that run the camp. And we staff heavily.
What is your background? How did you get involved?
I actually helped start the camp. I'm a retired firefighter from the city of Jackson. And while I was on the fire department, I was our secretary treasurer of the union, and I ran all our fundraising events. And we would do a lot of events to raise money for University of Michigan's trauma burn unit, and we sent kids to a camp in Minnesota. And that's how I initially got involved.
I would like to know how it
Sure.
was started. I am very interested in it. It looks like a blast too, by the way. I like went through a bunch of pictures and stuff. It looks like these kids are having like the time of their lives, and the counselors.
Yeah, it really is. But one of the events I used to run was a hockey game against Ann Arbor firefighters. And in 1993, we were doing it at the Osage Arena in Ann Arbor. Well, in 1992, we had a gentleman here in Jackson County that was involved in an automobile accident where he was pinned in the vehicle with it on fire. And sadly, he lost his wife in the accident. But Chris was being traded at U of M. He had played hockey with a bunch of our firefighters. So 11 months after his accident, he was burned 75% of his body. 11 months after, some of the guys said, "Hey, do you want to try and skate in the game?" And he said, "Yeah, that'd be pretty neat, especially with the burn nurses being there." So we did the game, and it was very nice. Nobody checked into him and all that. It was good, clean game. It was for charity. So we're in the locker room after the game, and he goes, "So what's this all about?" And I said, "We're sending kids from the burn unit here in Ann Arbor to a camp in Wisconsin." He says, "I'd like to go as a chaperone." I says, "We can probably make that happen." 93, he could not go. That was when the game was. He couldn't go because he was still under too much rehab. So 94, he went as a chaperone. Got done, called me up and said, "Mike, that's the neatest thing I've ever done. Let's start Camp Michigan." I said, "Okay." We wrote all the burn units, and they came to a meeting in Jackson, and everybody agreed that night to do a camp. And plastic surgeon out of Kalamazoo brought the executive director of the camp that we still use 28 years later. And he offered us a week at the end of their summer session, and we took it. And so 9 months after that first meeting, we had our first camp with 45 kids. We're
That's
still
amazing.
going. We average 70 kids in the summer and 60 in the winter. So,
Okay.
yeah, and it's a lot of them are the same kids. They get to come back each year. And the age group is, we advertise 6 to 17 years old. We have taken 5-year-olds. If they've been in the burn unit for a while, it's not a big deal for them not being at home for a week. So
Sure.
our summer camp's a week and the winter camp's 4 days.
So what does a typical day of the summer camp look like? What are the kids doing? What makes this, special?
Well, there's a lot of regular camp activities like arts and crafts, archery, swimming, boating, kayaking.
Okay.
But we get in a little deeper, and we'll bring in inflatables for 1 or 2 days. Actually, what's really cool is the way we start camp. Pretty Lake Camp is in Kalamazoo County, and we actually transport the kids into Kalamazoo from all over the state. We have multiple different pickup points, and we transport them to Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo, where we register the kids, put their luggage in ambulances and fire department squad trucks, and we take them by parade out to the camp, where half of my staff's out there, half are at Wing Stadium, but also at camp are sponsors that sponsor, help pay for the camp. And it's about a 14-mile drive, and people actually line the route. But the kids, we have a 100-foot ladder truck lead the parade. It's police and fire escorted. We have anywhere from 450 to 600 motorcycles after the fire truck. Well, and then the ambulances are right behind them with the old kids' luggage. But then the kids are in about 44 fire trucks, lights and siren. And the last night of camp, we actually do, we have our outpost, which is our 16, 17-year-old kids. The last night, they do a carnival for the kids after dinner. For all the younger kids, they set up carnival, run all the games, and give away little prizes to all the younger kids. Then we do a dance, and at 9:45 we shut down the dance, and by 10 o'clock they're ready for fireworks. We have our own private fireworks show. And then after the fireworks, they come back into the dining hall where the dance has been, and they watch a video the whole week. I've got photographers and video people doing a show, kind of, but they're taking all the pictures and videos, and we put together to about a 22-minute video of all the kids in the video to music. So
we're going to take a short break from our chat to hear some words of wisdom from our local sensei as we kick it with Keith Hafner.
Hello, parents. This is Grandmaster Keith Hafner from Keith Hafner's Karate. I'm here with the 10 Commandments of Parenting. This lesson is commandment number 5. Here it is. Recognize bad behavior in all of its forms. Now, I think you're pretty good at recognizing active bad behavior when your kids actually do things that are observable that are clearly bad. I think you're probably doing a good job with those. But I encourage you to watch your kids, because sometimes they will be doing things that you might have become so accustomed to. And oftentimes they're kind of passive things that you might not recognize them as bad behavior. Here at the karate school, once in a while, a parent will say to me, gee, my kid always complains about coming to class. And they'll interpret that as though there's something wrong with class, or maybe the kid is losing interest. And sometimes I'll say to that parent, why don't you just tell them to stop? Why don't you just treat this like what it is, bad behavior? You might say to your kids, hey, you don't want to see me complain about all the things that I have to do. Why would I want to hear you complain about all the things you were doing? And so complaining, I think, to be understood properly, is a form of passive bad behavior. Another one, and I think a really big one, especially when kids get to be a certain age, is sulking. Sometimes you will make a plan for the family, or tell your son or daughter that they have to do something or can't do something they want. And you know how they respond sometimes? By sulking, by being grouchy, by passively letting you know how much they disapprove of what you said. And I think when you start to look, you'll find at times some of these passive forms of bad behavior. And if you then start to treat them like active forms of bad behavior, as if to say, okay, I know, miss, you don't like that I told you you couldn't go over to your friend's house, but this sulking, this going around with a long face and grouching at everybody, that's not how we do things in this family. A certain amount of cheerfulness is expected of all of us, so I'm just putting you on notice that you are to cheer up, or else there will be consequences. Now, your kids are this way because it's been allowed, because it's been sort of under the radar. Maybe you haven't seen it as the bad behavior that it is. But if you start confronting it, and I mean gently, and I even mean gradually, but if you just start to turn the tide on this thing a little bit, it's really in your kid's best interest that this behavior is confronted and dealt with. So, rock-solid parents recognize bad behavior from their kids in all of its forms.
We're back with Mike Longencker. Mike, you know, you were talking about the activities at camp and stuff, and if you want to talk a little bit more about that, please do. But I'd like to know a little bit about why this is such like a good place for these kids to go to heal and like feel like a normal kid again. Obviously, you talk about these having so many surgeries and having to be in the hospital and do all this stuff, but they want to feel like a kid.
Yes. Yes, they do. They'll be in a school system and there won't be any other kids in that school that have burns or scars.
Mhm.
The kids are bullied and made fun of and teased a lot because of it's, especially if their scars show.
Hmm.
You know, we've got kids with facial burns and, you know, missing hair, all their hair or parts of it, you know, and it's a tough time growing up being a kid. Other kids aren't always so nice. So they, with other kids that have been through the exact same thing they've been through, you know, they're their peers, and they just get together. They don't care, you know, they can get in their swimsuits and they're not worried about being stared at or, you know, made fun of at all. And it's amazing. And they've got lifelong friendships from camp. We say we're one big family, staff and the kids, and the kids will even say it themselves.
Do you have advice for, parents and just regular kids to just be accepting of these burn survivors? I mean, they should feel comfortable when they go to their elementary school or their
Mhm.
high school or whatever it might be. I personally had a cousin that, when she was very little, got burned by hot tea, and she did have scars all
Mhm.
over her face. But I
Yep.
mean, and I'm sure it was hard for her. And I feel for all of these people, because I think, like, we talk about how your physical self isn't as important, but that's the first thing that
Mhm.
people see.
Yep.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing the self-esteem these kids get from coming to camp's amazing. I've seen kids show up to camp their first year, they'll get out of a vehicle when they arrive, and their head will be down, they'll be looking away, they're quiet. And the one boy in particular, this is years ago, the next session at winter camp, he pulled up in a van, jumped out, and was a whole different person. And so it was so good to see that, how he just opened up, and uh, it's absolutely amazing. And one of the really nice things about camp is we've been doing it long enough that we have former campers coming back as staff. So about 20% of my 95 people that stay the full week of summer camp are former campers. And what great role models for the younger kids.
Absolutely.
You might have a camper that was burned by hot water. They might not want to be taking a shower,
Mm, sure.
nervous about it. So we make sure we have two psychologists / social workers at camp that are there to work with the kids too if they're having issues. We have campfires. A lot of the kids have been burning campfires,
Mm.
but we show that there's good uses of things, and you just need to be careful around them. So,
Okay.
um,
Do you find yet, it sounds like there would be, but do you find yet that there's a wait list or a need for additional camps during the week?
luckily, we haven't had every camper that's ever applied has been accepted to camp.
Okay.
We can put quite a few kids in summer and winter,
Mhm.
but to get the parents to actually do the application process is the hardest. And it's not. I mean, it's totally free for the families and the kids and the families, and it's
Mhm.
because of wonderful donors that we have out there doing fundraisers for us. And it's it's a grassroots campaign that what we do. People usually call and say, "Hey, can we do a fundraiser for you?" And we're like, "Yep," and we'll show up and help the day of the event or participate, whatever. And that's what lets us run our operation. But
Right.
it's super important for the kids.
Tell us a little bit about this winter camp. You told us about
Mhm.
the summer camp, but
Yep,
winter camp's got to be a little different because it's cold outside.
it is. Well, the cold part though, that's something that I didn't comment yet. If the kids come to camp short of clothes, we've got clothes for them. We've got shoes for them. We've got swimsuits. We've got bedding, sleeping bags, whichever. But winter camp, we bring coats, gloves, boots, and snow pants with us, so they're not going to worry about the cold. They don't have an excuse for not going outside. But winter camp, we use two charter buses, and we do two loops around the state. One starts on the east side of the state, one starts on the west, and then they kind of go up the middle, or third of the way in each way. And we go up to it's Onaway, Michigan, which is kind of between Sheboygan and Alpena. Um, and we use United Auto Workers Conference and Education Center. We rent that out, and their staff up there is so fantastic. They actually build a sledding hill for the kids. They set up ice fishing. They've actually taken one of their ponds and filled it with lake perch, so the kids can catch the fish. They'll bring in ice shanties and everything. It's just amazing. They bring in snowmobiles and side by sides, and those aren't allowed on that property, which is 1,200 acres, any other time than when we're there. So we're very fortunate they do that. They organize it for the kids. They bring in the sheriff departments and from the area, and two different ones, and all the fire departments in the area. And they actually give the kids a parade on the first night they're at camp. They drive. It's dark out. Summer camp, it's warm and sunny because middle of the 1 o'clock parade. Winter, it's parade in the dark, so the lights are flashing off the snow and the trees, and it's a little different style parade. But so we get the kids there, they check in. The place is it's massive for one, but they have a gym that's 2+ basketball courts big, so we'll set up archery, volleyball, basketball. We've actually done a human foosball game in there before. They have an Olympic-sized indoor pool, and on Saturday night when all the kids are at the pool, after the fire, we do a fireworks show up there in the winter too on Saturday night. After the fireworks, they all go to the pool, and the staff of Black Lake is actually, they'll buy over 600 glow sticks. The first year they had 600. The last time we did it, there were over 1,000 glow sticks, and they throw them in the pool and shut the lights off.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
It's so cool the way it glows, and the kids just love it. So we've got arts and crafts going up there. They even do a hay ride. They'll take the kids from activity to activity on that hay wagon. Plus, we'll also use our couple camp vehicles to transport kids. And they've also brought in dog sledding for the kids. So a professional dog sledder that takes the kids out.
So
Well,
Mike, is
that's
there,
amazing.
I was gonna say, is there anything that you guys don't do with these kids? Because this camp sounds awesome.
There's a lot of work put into it, and we try and spoil
Yeah, it sounds like it, but
I mean, they
for
get
all
to
the right
do
reasons.
they get to do activities that I've never done in my life. I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And that's part of what we want. We want to, well, our motto is laugh, play, heal, and grow. So we give them opportunities to do things they won't get the chance to do.
We'll be back in exactly 60 seconds with more from the Great Lakes Burn Camp. We're back with Mike, the executive camp director for the Great Lakes Burn Camp. Mike, you were talking about the winter camp, but I'd like to know, because you have been a part of this since the beginning, you're one of the founders of it. Do you have any really special camp memories and that would sort of make people want to go to camp?
There's so many memories. A lot of our kids, even though they're burn survivors, they have other health issues also. We had a boy with Downs, and he had actually lost all of his fingers in his burn accident. And this was one of the years during the Olympics that we did Olympic Games. And so we had a camper from each cabin group, because they're by age, participate. So the team was made up of one camper from every cabin. And Kyle's spot was going to be down at the waterfront. And I don't know if you know what a blow up igloo is, or iceberg. I mean, sorry, an iceberg. It's pointed up. It's about 8 foot tall, and you have to climb to the top, and then you can slide down or jump off, whatever. And Kyle's part of the relay race was he had to climb the iceberg, and it's kind of tough with no fingers. And the other kids all stopped, and all the staff were just cheering him on to get him to the top. And everybody, all his counselors are in tears, and the staff there down there, the waterfront staff. And everybody was just so glowing about that Kyle achieved it. We have a lot of amazing things. We've had a boy come in, and we'll do camper exchanges at times. We've done it with a camp from Texas and a camp from Missouri. There's about 44 camps between the United States and Canada. So not every state has a camp. This Michael was his name. He was amputated just below the elbow on both arms. Well, his cabin was kayaking across the lake to go camp out overnight in a tent. And Michael got to do the kayaking. We put gloves on his arms. My staff were fantastic. They used medical tape and cling and put the gloves on his arms, and then they duct taped the paddle to the gloves, and he kayaked across the lake. He just couldn't go as fast as everybody, but he accomplished something that he had never done. And later that week, he actually did a ropes program and did everything but change his carabiner. People were close to him and encouraging him, and he never thought he could be able to do something like that. We'll have kids come to camp that won't wear a long sleeve shirt because their arms are scarred, or they only wear long sleeve shirts because their arms are scarred, or they wear long pants, they won't wear shorts. by the end of our camp, they'll be wearing short sleeves or shorts. We actually had a grandparent call me, said, "What'd you do to my grandchild?" It's like, "What do you mean?" "Well, she's wearing short sleeves." Says, "We didn't really do anything. We just had them all together. She got confidence, and now she wears short sleeve shirts." It wasn't first I'm worried that they're upset, but they were just thrilled. They're like, "What was our magic to make it happen?" So it's just the kids being together.
That I like that, because you wonder if it sort of, this confidence follows them home, or is it just building confidence at the camp? But it sounds like it does. It goes home with them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does. And I talked about how our staff, a lot of our former campers are staff now.
Mhm.
I have two that came up. They were about a year apart. The girl lived up in Nashville, Michigan. The boy was in Manchester, Michigan, and they came back as staff. Amber asked Ian on a date. They ended up getting married, and now they have two kids. So when they were pregnant with when they found out they're pregnant with their first child, I got a phone call that says, "What's going on, Amber?" She goes, "I just want to let you know you're going to be a grandpa." So that's where I say, we're a tight knit family, really. I mean, that's the last thing I expected for them to say, but it's very touching and humbling that they think that way of us. So,
Absolutely. And it sounds like you have campers that come back every year, you
Mhm.
said. So it's not only, they come back as campers versus, the volunteering, but
yeah.
that says a lot. Absolutely.
Mhm. And it's nice having the winter camp so we don't have to go a full year without seeing them. We can see each other every 6 months.
And
And
these are kids coming from all over the state, and or just Michigan, or out of state as well.
well, in the high 90% are from Michigan.
Mhm.
But if a kid needs to come to camp, we make it happen no matter where they're from.
Gotcha.
We've had kids from California. Shriners has 4 burn units across the country. They have Cincinnati, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Galveston, Texas, and Sacramento, California. And we've actually had kids from all 4 of their burn units. We have a good reputation, so nobody minds sending us kids. But we've had kids from Nebraska, New Jersey, Virginia, we say Texas, Missouri, California. So, I mean, but like I say, the in the high 90% are Michigan, just from the state of Michigan. And we call ourselves a Great Lakes Burn Camp because we don't want to eliminate anybody.
Mhm.
Mike,
Yeah.
we're just about out of time, but one of the things
Okay.
I want to cover real quick before we go is you mentioned the biggest obstacle is having parents just register these kids for camp.
Mhm.
Tell them why they
It
should
is.
get on that website and register these kids, because it sounds like a once in a lifetime opportunity that they can have twice a year.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the hospitals help us as much as they can, but you can't just send out due to HIPAA laws. They can't just send us their information anymore. So we actually have a brochure that has a tear off, and when they're in the hospital, they try and give them the tear off and say fill it out, and then the hospital mails it to us. If the parents have filled it out and said, "Yeah, go ahead and mail it," then we're good to go. But it's life changing for the not just the camper, but the whole family. We had one young girl, her first time coming to camp, and Lauren is now a staff member. Mom was talking about how they're just hugging and didn't want to split up and have her be gone for a week. And they said the next year when they come to the bus, because I'm not sure if we were doing winter camp then or not, but they said she got out of the car and just took off, didn't say bye or anything, just ran and got on the bus. They had to get out of the car and go, "Hey, come back and give us hugs." So, just in that shows how it changes a camper. They're the kids.
All right. Well,
So.
thank you, Mike, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
If you have an idea for a parenting show topic or guest, talk to us on Twitter and Facebook at #CTN Ann Arbor.
And for more on our programming and services, visit a2gov.org/CTN and visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to watch a full lineup. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for joining us on this adventure in parenthood.